Today I'd like to answer a question that a number of teachers have been asking me recently. What is the difference between the fractal approach and the dynamic approach to English language teaching? Well, I've been using these terms for some years now to refer to a number of key concepts in English language teaching, and more recently I've been trying to show how these ideas can be implemented in the modern language classroom. Basically, the fractal approach and the dynamic approach are two sides of the same coin. Or more accurately, the fractal approach is an interpretation of a wider concept. The basic idea is that since language is a dynamic form that's constantly changing, its dynamic nature should be reflected in day-to-day language teaching. And one consequence of this is that there are many acceptable solutions to any given language task, many possible answers to language exercises, any number of correct responses to a question. And this presents a problem for language teachers. How can we teach a subject matter which is constantly changing, where there are no right answers and no easy solutions? The dynamic approach is an approach to ELT that addresses these issues. The fractal approach refers to the use of a mathematical model to explain this phenomenon. And a fractal is a self-similar, self-organising geometric form, a form that possesses many of the dynamic characteristics that we find in human language. And this is what makes fractals such a useful point of reference for talking about language and language teaching. My personal interest in fractals goes back to a time way before the computer graphics that we know today, and I've always been fascinated by these complex forms and structures that we find not only in mathematics but in nature, in the real world too. And I developed the principles of the fractal approach to ELT some 20 years ago when I was working on a book about the fractal structures in business process re-engineering. And it simply seemed to me that there are so many parallels between fractal forms and language that this would be worth investigating further. And in a way, the dynamic approach grew out of that. So the dynamic approach is concerned with understanding and communicating the tremendous variety of ever-changing linguistic patterns that we find in natural language, and the fractal approach is the use of a graphical paradigm to help us visualize the dynamic nature of language. Excuse me. I have to go. Have a nice day.